Hello. Well, I'm going to start this video without an introduction, just with some music, so listen to this. That was the fifth part of the Capriole Suite by Peter Warlock, and it was played by the Academy of St Martin in the Fields, conducted by Sir Neville Marriner. I don't have much more to say. Just now I want to play another piece of music. This is the Air, the second part of the Brookgreen Suite by Gustav Holst, and here it's played by the English Sinfonia under Howard Griffiths. I wonder if your mind wandered off somewhere as you listened to that piece of music and indeed the first piece I played. Um, and if it did, I wonder if it wandered to someplace like this. Well, that wasn't just the sound of a farm, it was the sound of a farm somewhere in the English countryside. And the music you've heard so far is pretty typical of English pastoral music which really paints a picture of the English countryside. And there's an awful lot of stuff like this, and this is the point of today's programme. It's English pastoral music. But before I speak some more, let's hear one more piece of this genre, this kind of music. This is a seven rhapsody, which is part of Gerald Finzi's English Pastorals and Elegies, his opus number 3, and this is played by the London Philharmonic Orchestra, conducted by Sir Adrian Boult. So, what do you think of this kind of music, this genre that's commonly known as English or British pastoral music? Music that was generally written the early part of the 20th century, perhaps up to the end of the First World War. Um, Forgive me, but I'm now going to go for a wee walk in the English countryside, and I think I'll carry on talking as I go along. I think all the music you've heard is as well. It's lovely stuff, but really, if that damns it with faint praise, maybe I meant that to be the case, because to be honest, there's only so much of this romantic and overly sentimental music that I can take. So as I walk down this lovely country lane with as you hear the birds singing and cows mooing, I think of this music as maybe just a tad twee. It's a slushy evocation of an England that probably never was. And I suppose in time I can tire of these country lanes. I tire of sweeping flies off my face and of clambering over decaying stiles and of dodging ill-placed cowpats. And anyway, let's move on. By the start of the 20th century, British classical music was regarded as something of a joke, something of a non-entity, in fact, in Europe. After all, Britain was described by the German critic Oskar Schmitz in 1904 as being a land without music. And, well, he had a point, didn't he? How many great composers can you think of, after all, between Purcell and Elgar? But at the turn of the 20th century, a slew of gifted young British composers emerged, and they decided to create music that was their very own, something that was distinctly British, or more specifically English. And they turned to their inspiration, I beg your pardon, to what you hear now, the countryside. And they turned to long lost folk melodies and just pictures of pastoral scenes, and the result's a kind of music that speaks of memory and of reflection and nostalgia and longing and so forth. Decades after it was written, British music was immersed in new and very different forms as modernism took hold. And it was at a summer school in Dartington in 1950 that the very sharp-tongued but brilliant English composer Elizabeth Lutyens gave a lecture in which she damned this English pastoral school of composers such as Ralph Vaughan Williams and Frederick Delius and Arnold Bax and Gerald Finzi and Gustav Holst. She called them the Cowpat School. Let's stop for a minute, stop walking for a minute. She called them the Cowpat School, and she spoke witheringly of their folky, wokey melodies and on the Corran ways. Peter Warlock, who was that was the pen name of somebody called Philip Heseltine, and he was perversely the composer of the first piece in this programme, once likened Vaughan Williams' style to a cow staring over a fence. And Aaron Copland said that listening to Vaughan Williams' Fifth Symphony was like staring at a cow for 45 minutes. But it was Elizabeth Lutyens' bovine slur that really stuck. She didn't use the expression cowpat school kindly. And in just a few words, she condemned a host of very fine composers as purveyors of, well, I think puerile and patriotic, I suppose, pap, or at least that's how some people saw it. She certainly did. I wonder if that's what you think this piece of music is. That was the second of two pieces for small orchestra by Frederick Delius. Delius was a composer that I've tended to steer clear of. I think probably because I've always associated him with music like that. And now I get to the central point of this programme. Delius was, like some of his English contemporaries, far, far more than simply a composer of lovely, bucolic melodies. One of the criticisms of the Cowpat school, if I can carry on calling it that, is that it's painfully parochial. But there's nothing at all parochial about Delius, as you may know. He could hardly have been more cosmopolitan. He managed an orange plantation in Florida. He taught in New York. He attended a conservatoire in Leipzig, and he lived for many years in and later near Paris. And he married a German. And there's nothing of the Cowpat or necessarily English about the next piece you're going to hear. It's from Delius's double concerto for violin and cello. You're going to hear the third movement, and although Delius asked that it be played slowly and quietly, I think this wonderful music really surely deserves better than to be linked with the Cowpat school. Let's hear it now. ended abruptly. That was Tasman Little and Paul Watkins playing with the BBC Symphony Orchestra. By the way, I apologise for the funny electronic noise you heard in the piece before that one. I don't know what it was, it couldn't be helped. I don't think Elizabeth Lutchins would call that music cowpat music. She may have, but I don't know. But some of the music you're going to hear in video number 2 most certainly is cowpat music, or at least Elizabeth Lutchins would think it is. And in video 2 I'll explain why it is that I've always had a bit of a problem with music of this kind.